200 miles inside the Arctic Circle.
The biggest challenge, I'd say, is just existing.
Out here, Mother Nature is a very cold lady that is trying really hard to kill you.
There's a lot of importance to what we're doing out here, I think. It certainly focuses the mind.
We need to test nearly to failure, and sometimes past that.
Things go right, things go wrong, we learn from every mistake.
The ability to exist and win, ultimately, is the reason for us being here.
We're right up in the far north of Norway. The Royal Marines have been coming here for over half a century to train to fight in the frozen Arctic. But things have changed. This is no longer just a convenient place to practice cold weather drills. There's a very real possibility that NATO might need to defend it. Whoever controls the Arctic can also monitor the shortest missile route between Russia and North America. The Arctic's rapidly melting ice also allows access to valuable resources for countries to fight over and previously inaccessible shipping routes that nations want to dominate. When Putin invaded Ukraine, Finland and Sweden joined NATO, and the Arctic map became Russia on one side and NATO on the other. Russia is growing its military presence in the Arctic. NATO need to be ready, and before you can fight, you need to survive.
These are a vital piece of equipment for when you're yomping, tabbing, hiking or walking. What I'm going to do now is get you to go around that block just so that you get used to walking in with snowshoes and walking with the poles. It's not a race, but if any of your snowshoes fall off, you'll be doing tuck jumps. Happy? All right, off you go.
At the Royal Norwegian Air Force Base in Bardufoss, a new batch of students are just beginning their cold weather survival course. Over the next 3 years, the UK will double its troops deploying to Norway from 1 to 2,000, and everyone who deploys, whether soldier, chef or pilot, must complete it.
We've got our 7th course going on. It started this morning. The slight trepidation on people's faces as they were going into it. They're going to learn a huge amount in the next 10 days, 2 weeks or so before they go. And when they leave here, they'll have the confidence and the skills to be able to exist should they find themselves unexpectedly isolated or operating alongside the Royal Marines out in the field.
There will be in your tank group people who will be better at doing this and people who will be terrible at it. Like, you need to find that out rapidly, and then if you're good at mountain snow, that is your job when you get up.
So this is what we'd usually wear if we were out on the ground in Norway. So these are Arctic cam whites. They look pretty Websters, but they work pretty well in just covering up our green uniform. This is a pulk, basically a sled that carries all our sort of communal group kit with us, and it's basically what we'd use if we went down in our aircraft out in the mountains somewhere and needed to survive ourselves before we got rescued. This is a 10-man tent, really old bit of kit, but actually works very well and is pretty warm, even in temperatures down to sort of minus 30. We have these lamps as well, which we get going, and they heat the whole thing up. These are tent boots. They're essentially mittens, but for your feet. Avalanche transceiver, goggles. These are pretty essential bits of kit when the snowstorms come in and it gets pretty nasty.
At the moment we're standing outside of Quincy. This is one of the survival shelters that we do on the course.
What you'll notice immediately is that we've got the beds are raised, so we've got a cold trench in the middle. That essentially, obviously, with cold air being heavier, it will sink, and we want all of that heat to stay at the top, which is where we sleep. You can see at the back here we've dug a little shelf, which is where we'd position the candle. One person will be awake at all times, every hour, and we'll change hands. And they've got to keep an eye on that candle and make sure that it's lit. If at any point it goes out, then that's a warning to tell you the oxygen levels have dropped in the Quincy. So you can fit up to 8 people, depending on the configuration of your beds as well.
So this is a bed?
Yeah.
Can you show us?
I can show, yeah. So obviously you'd have your either brushwood or roll mat, but simply in like that, and then your partner would be laid next to you, potentially 3 people on a bed.
Hopefully someone you like.
Hopefully someone you like, yeah.
How many nights do you think you would be happy spending in Quincy?
Can go for weeks. Yeah, easily.
Wow.
Quite love it in Quincy. Cozy.
To defend the Arctic, NATO must train together. Already close friends are becoming closer. This week, the Commando Helicopter Force are working hand in hand with the Dutch. Today, their medical team are operating on board a British helicopter.
Normally in the Netherlands we're training with the NH-19, with the Chinook and the Cougar.
So this is new?
Yeah, the Merlin is new. It was for all of us the first time that we're flying with Merlin.
The world changed a bit since the Russian invasion in Ukraine, of course. I'm expecting to spend more time here. I've just been informed that in November an MOU has been signed between our governments, the Dutch and the Norwegian government, opening the way for a more permanent presence here in the north of Norway. So I assume that in the next coming years that MOU will result in a more permanent presence for both F-35s and ourselves. Yeah.
How does the Merlin compare with what you're used to working on?
Inside the Merlin is almost the same space as in the Chinook. So actually it feels a little bit like home. Gunshot wounds.
I think for every doctor and every nurse it's good to be here, because now you really see the environment, the weather, and we have to think about IV infusion. You can't give that to a patient when he's in shock and the fluid is too cold, then it's more dangerous. So you have to warm it up. Your own hands are cold. Everything is slow and it takes more time.
So we got a British aircrew, British helicopter, we got a Dutch medical asset, and we combine it in a mission. That's very valuable, and I think that's the strength of our partnership. I think that's the strength of NATO as well, to have a standard. For example, we were able to read the medical cards, we understand what was written. So the medics in the field started healthcare, we continue it.
We plan together, we train together, we fight together. One moment we have the lead in planning, the other moments you have the lead in planning. It's seamless, really. We speak the same language, we more or less have the same humor, and we have the exact same type of operation, so it works absolutely flawless, yeah.
Today, the Norwegian mountains were perfect, but in the Arctic, conditions can change in an instant.
I think personally what I found difficult is the challenges of landing. Things that are easy back home, as in making an approach to a reference or a landing point, becomes harder because everything is the same colour. You know, if it's snow covered, then you have no depth of perception, and then when you get near the ground, the snow build-up is something I've never experienced before. So trying to maintain your references without getting disorientated is probably the biggest challenge.
It's kind of hard to fly a helicopter if you can't see, and landing in the snow means that everything outside a 2-meter radius, I'd say, disappears completely from sight.
Another thing we practice is obviously landing in heavy snow on the ground, and you don't know how deep that is, and quite often it can be well above the landing wheels or the landing gear. So we have a procedure called bedding in, so we'll land on, we'll keep some power on so we're just about touching the ground, and we'll slowly lower the power lever, and then using the controls we'll bed in one wheel at a time. And you'll literally feel the aircraft sink as it goes through the light snow, and then eventually settle. And we do that slowly, stage by stage. But as with any landing out here, you don't know quite what's underneath the snow, so you're always ready. If the aircraft were to move or sink, then you can lift back to the hover and go again.
The cold can affect the aircraft with like freezing parts, and we've got ways of rewarming the aircraft. Bringing it in the hangar is one of them. We've got like heaters that we can direct onto different parts, and we're using those. I had to do that once, had to sit on top of the aircraft for about 45 minutes, pointing this hot tube at a component just to get it warm.
As training ramps up, the Commando Helicopter Force start doing things they've never done before. Fast roping may be a staple back home, but they've never done it in the Arctic until now. and everything is more challenging in -20.
It's a good thing that we're here now, getting ready, and I think there's a good chance that this is where we're going to operate in the near future. So getting used to this environment and used to flying in these conditions can only be a good thing.
We've committed to this, and therefore, if you want to operate here, you really have to train for it.
Thanks for watching. For more from BFBS Forces News, like and subscribe to our channel.